Welcome back to AllbyOly Alteration, where I share free tutorials on how to adjust clothes. For example, this top is one of my customers and we need to adjust the sides. So the bottom part fits well, but the upper part we have to adjust 3/4. So let's get started. First, what I'm going to do is I will take the chalk and I will mark how much I have to take in. I also can mark inside and take a ruler, double check one more time how much I have to adjust it. Then we can easily to remove the pins that we already know how much we have to adjust. This is the amount how much we have to adjust, and also we can start to removing the ribbon. As you see inside, it's kind of like elastic ribbon which helps the top to stay well and not slide down. So we have to open the seam exactly how much we have to adjust. For example, let's say if I have to adjust 1 inch, I will open 1.5 inches, just a little bit extra. So it will be more easier for us to sew the detail back just as was originally. To remove the ribbon or to open the sides, you can use seam ripper or razor blade if you have experience. Then we'll cut the ribbon in half and then we can easily open the sides on the seam right here. So carefully open the arm line right here, and then I'm gonna double check and measure how much we have to take in. Okay, so then we can start opening the bottom part. So since we don't have to adjust the bottom part, we probably can open on a lining or actually to open right here as the jackets. Usually on the jackets, I will open the bottom part where the lining meets with the fabric. When we open the bottom part of the jacket or any item, we have to open just as much as our hand going through. And also, as you see, I will mark inside with the chalk where I have to stop my stitch, where I have to stop adjusting. Then with the chalk, I will go inside and I will mark my marks from outside to inside. So that way, when I will be sewing, it will be easier for me to know exactly how much I have to adjust. But if you took the measurements and you know, you can just put the measurements and sew it. I do always both just in case to double check my measurements with the measurements I took with the ruler. Then as you see, I pull the upper part and turn to the wrong side, so that way I can see all the seams. So as you see, this is our front side, and this is our measurements that we marked. So with the chalk, I will start from the line where I marked little by little to the amount how much I have to take it in. For example, in the waist I had to adjust 1/2 inch, and then on upper part it was almost close to 3/4. Now we are ready to adjust the sides. Always remember when we are altering the clothes, the length of the stitch is only free, number three or 3.5. Why? Because the stitch, if it's gonna be too small, it'll be really hard to remove it in case if we need to redo it, or let's say we need to let it out back. So also I do not cut the allowance only if it's more than 1 inch. After we sew it, we have to remove the old stitch because our allowance are pressed open, so we have to remove the old stitch. And in this case, you can use seam ripper, which is the easiest way to remove it. So next step, after we adjust the right fabric, now we have to adjust the lining same amount. So the lining, as you see, it comes with two pieces of fabric, as you see. So I need to open this seam first, so I'll be able to adjust both same amount. So I'm gonna open first the stitch that is sewing them together. And now I'm gonna take the ruler and I'll measure exactly how much I have to take in. And as you remember, the bottom part, I don't need to adjust a lot, but I will have to adjust a teeny bitty. Also, I make sure this detail amount and the lining part is exactly same way adjusted, because when we're gonna sew them back, we wanted to make sure both are same length. So after I adjusted the detail, I will adjust the lining. And we also have to remove the old stitch because the allowance are open. Sometimes if our allowance are pressed on one side, we do not need to remove the stitches, but if our original garment, the allowance is open pressed, then we have to do it the same. I always tend to alter clothes just the way they are made because you don't want to change the fit, and these details really matter. For example, if I will, let's say, take all this fabric and press it to one side without removing the stitch, when we're gonna finish the garment and press it, you will see how thick will be at the seam underarm, and sometimes this little detail will not fit the garment just as supposed to. After we adjusted both sides, we have to sew the arm line, and as you see, I am opening on both sides the allowance, and then we have to put the stitch back just how originally was. So if you want to practice on different garment, just always remember before you opening, always remember how the garment was done. And that what will teach you better, and you will get a better understanding how clothes are made. So we're gonna start to sew. As you see, this is the arm line and this is the lining and the fabric. So I'm opening the allowance on both sides, as you see, and also I will match the seam from front and back. You can also add the pin if it's easier for you. When you're closing the arm line, make sure to match with the stitch that is originally made. And final touches is actually to press all the seams before we turn the garment to the right side. So as you see, I am opening the allowance and I am pressing with the iron. If you have a professional iron, you do not need to add any fabric on top, but if you have a home iron, make sure you add a piece of cloth just in case so you don't damage the fabric. On the upper part, as you see this elastic, I do not press on top of this elastic because it can melt and destroy the elastic. So what I'm doing is just placing one on top of another, and this part I will hand stitch, but I will press it the lining only. And also when we press the bottom part, as you see, I'm folding exactly how the garment was before. I will press it and this part will hand stitch it as well. I'll add a simple pin so it will hold the fabric together and I know when and how to sew it. Okay, let's close the bottom part, so you will need the needle and the thread. I will start sewing from inside so I can hide the knot inside. Make sure to hide all the thread inside so that way they don't stick outside. And then we have to close the lining just by a little pinching. So we're gonna like pinch a little bit of the fabric and a little bit of the lining and make sure it's exactly same line as it was sewed before. So this hand stitch, it's called running stitch, and with this stitch we are closing the bottom part. It's pretty easy to sew it. You need a little bit of practice if you never sewed before, but after you get couple times, it's pretty easy to understand the technique. And that's how we're closing the bottom part lining. And final touches is to hand stitch our elastic with also the needle and thread, and I will make sure to sew not only elastic between them but also to sew it to the lining only. Make sure you don't go through all the fabrics, you don't want to see the stitches on the right fabric, so that's why we just kind of like pinching the lining and then go through elastic. So after we sew the elastic part, we finished and everything else is ready. I will have to adjust the upper side as well, but I hope this tutorial will help you in the future as you see the garment looks originally just how it made and very clean. Thank you so much for watching.